Hello and welcome to this short webinar with the title Negative Requirements, Why You Should Stay on the Positive Side, or how not to focus on negative requirements. I will start by having a short introduction of the reuse company and myself. Then I will go into to focus on the issue of negative requirements. What are they and what harm can they possibly do to a set of requirements? Then I will perform a demonstration on how our tool RQA works, and I will stop at the end with a Q&A, question and answer session. So you can absolutely post your question in the question section here in the GoToWebinar tool, and we will go through them at the end. Okay, so reuse. The reuse company was founded in 1999 as a spin-off from a technical university in Madrid, Spain. And I would say from the start, we have been a successful and smart collaboration between academia, ourselves, and industry, I would like to add. The headquarters is located in Madrid, Spain. And we currently have offices in Stockholm. We have opened an office recently in the United States, and we have a delegation in Tokyo, Japan. And as I said, the idea is to provide smart, reusable, scalable, and interoperability between different tool set in the system engineering environment by offering a semantic knowledge approach to what we are doing. And myself, I am the current CEO of the Stockholm office in Sweden, and I've been working a couple of decades as a requirements engineer and a system engineer, and also in different managerial positions in the industry, and a couple of years as a system engineering consultant as well. I also conduct different types of requirements and systems engineering trainings. So let's look into today's topic. What is a negative requirement, you might think? Well, my idea of this webinar is to capture one of the rules in the INCOSE Guide to Write Requirements. And I also want to point out that this Guide to Write Requirements by the International Council on Systems Engineering was recently updated. So if you are INCOSE members, please go into the INCOSE website and download the latest version of this Guide to Write Requirements. And I will be focusing on one out of many rules, because there are a number of them, as you might already know. So the use of the not, the negative word not, is rule number 16. And the idea behind spotting negative requirements is that they introduce and increase the ambiguity. They are hard to verify, and basically it's hard to get a correct interpretation of them. And I will show you this soon. And I will be focusing on this requirements characteristics solely. So when you see the demonstration later on, you will be seeing just me checking this rule by itself. So if I should read the headline here and give you a couple of seconds, I please ask you not to think on a blue elephant. I guess that most of you actually thought about some kind of elephant with probably a blue color. And why do we do that? It's actually in our brain itself, because we are not very good at working with negatives. We are working with positives, meaning that we are looking into what is absolutely out there. And when we talk about negative requirements or negatives as such, it's connected to ourselves being able to spot these things by actually creating a positive image in our mind, in our subconscious mind, and then starting to compare that to what it might be in a negative setting. Which means that we basically, to understand a negative type of requirement, we are implying an implicit understanding and knowledge from previous history. So it's going to be very biased from person to person. So we should not work with negative requirements if it can be avoided. You will also see that I have some exceptions from the rule, but they are, as I said, exceptions. So what harm can a negative requirement give to a project? Well, as you see in this picture where it says no cycling and no skateboarding, is easily to think that, okay, what is then permitted? What can I actually be upon when I pass this line? And when it comes to looking into examples from INCOSE, they have this example, for instance. The negative requirement is the system shall not fail. And you might think, well, that's not too bad. But it's much better to describe what the system actually is supposed to do and what type of capabilities it's supposed to show. So a positive version of that would be, for instance, to talk about the system availability. And in this case, it should be greater or equal to 95%. And when you think about it, a negative requirement is much harder to verify because you have to think on a lot of different variants in order to capture the knots. Okay, it's much easier to think on how you should actually verify the availability and create a verification case around that. Another example is, for instance, consider the following. On pressing enter, the user shall not be allowed to change any setting. Okay. And what is the positive result that we should enforce or see? What happens when actually I have pressed the enter key? Should the system display a message of some kind, or hide the data, or lock the system, or what am I supposed to do with this requirement? So it's much better than to say, for instance, when the user has pressed enter, the settings shall be frozen, because that was my intention in the first place. So by using the word not, you actually are allowed to be a little bit fussy. And as soon as you start to remove it or want to remove it, you are actually forced to be more specific and more spot on. So it's much easier to stay within focus, within scope, when you actually avoid using negative requirements. And when it comes to functionality, I would say you should not do it, because negative requirements are actually saying what the system should not do. So what should I do with that requirement? So it's much better to say, again, to stay on the positive side. And for example, look into this requirement. The system should not allow external actors to access the data. Okay. Do that mean that everybody else, which is not external, or who are the external actors? Like my describing here, are consultants allowed to access the system or not? You know, it's not very practical when you write requirements like this, and it opens up for different interpretations. So it's much better to rephrase it, saying that the system should only allow approved actors to access the data. And now I basically replaced the not with only, meaning that the only will be a restriction to that function. It will be the constraint on that function. And it's much better to do it like that. And then if you want to describe unwanted behaviors or unwanted functions, you might end up in double negatives, like for instance in this example. If a fire is not detected by the smoke sensor, the fire detection system shall not allow the user to manually activate the fire alarm. Okay, it's hard to have these double no, okay, in any sentence. So why don't, for instance, try to elaborate that this system had different modes, and for instance that the regular mode is a normal mode. So then we can say that when in normal mode, the fire detection system should. Then we have to come to the second setting, and again say prevent instead of not. So the complete requirement would be when in normal mode, the fire detection system should prevent the user from manually activating the fire alarm. And suddenly we're more precise, and we have got rid of two negative settings, two negative sentences. And of course, there are some exceptions to these rules, of course, as they usually are. And if you are familiar with the INCOSE rule set, you have the INCOSE rules rule number 15 that says that you should control how you use logical expressions, meaning that you can be allowed to use not in a logical sense. And of course, in our tool, we can adjust the tool so when it's following a certain pattern that we will not flag it. But again, if you are using logical expressions in your requirements, the not has a different meaning. And of course, you might want to describe constraints on a system, like the system shall not be red in color. And I'm saying here that as long as the range is described, or that you're referring to a standard. And again, in our system, the RQA, you can calibrate the tool so it actually spot that this not is actually something that we can allow. And as INCOSE says, sometimes a need statement from a stakeholder can be expressed using a negative wording, okay? Such as a user, I do not want to learn a new set of system commands. And from this, you will be able to derive at least one constraint that the system should not be developed with a new set of system commands, or it should actually use the same set that you have. I need to stay positive, right? So let's look into how you are able to capture these things then. And of course, the regular thing to do, even if we have a guide that allows us to set up rules for how requirements are supposed to be written, you have to manually review it. Or, which is much better and more efficient, is to use the requirement quality analyzer, the RQA. And I will show you a short demo of RQA and how it works. And in this movie, I'm actually showing a new version from the SES version 23, which is actually add-in to Microsoft Word. But we will be focusing not on this add-in itself or the Word connector, but we will be focusing on the negative requirement as such. So here in this this video, I will show you the requirements which are caught from the Word document itself. So these are the requirements. And now we want to have the tool helping us in these very simple requirements to just detect, do we have any knots in them? Okay, and of course in a regular setting the requirements are much more worthy and you would like to spot more of the different requirement characteristics than just spotting the negative requirements as you see here. So we are only looking into one enabled metric here, one enabling out of those 42 in the INCOSE handbook. And if we don't spot any, that's fine. And if we spot more than one or more, we will flag those. So let's do an analysis. I will just increase the windows slightly. So it's a correctness-based metric. So we will analyze the requirements and we will soon see that the RQA is able to spot these things. So 5 bad requirements and 3 with high quality. Because I've also brought in the rewritten requirements from my presentation previously here. So we are finding the issues, all the knots, and now I just want to show you that we can actually go in and rewrite a requirement using the RAT requirements authoring tool. With its inline capability of showing these things. So you just take a pic here of a requirement. And here's the RAT. So here we have the negative one. And if you remember from my presentation, I said that we shouldn't only replace the not, we should say prevent instead, creating a constraint to this one. And now you see that it's of high quality again. And also the requirement as such has been updated in the Word file if you're using this plugin to Microsoft Word. So here you have it, the prevent there. So that was basically my video, and I also would like to recommend all of you users of the current version of our tools, the version 18.5, or if you have started to use the new version 23, that if you are using version 18, you can download the updated INCOSE set of rules and start to apply them in your RQA tool. And it will soon be available also for all of you that uses version 23. So you can download this library in the version 23 version. And I can also recommend for you to look into a previous webinar by my colleague who presented how to implement and tailor the latest version of Guide to Write Requirements, the version 4.0. So you see the link there, and you can access the presentation and the video from that recording. So that was all for me. So over for the questions and answers.
Okay, I have a question here. Not is not the only negative word. Can you detect other negative statements if you want, or tailor the metrics?
That's a good question. I used the basic rule from the INCOSE guide, but you have a knowledge base, an ontology in the background here, and that can be updated so that the metric capture more negative sentences or terms if you want to add that to a new metric. So absolutely, it's possible to tailor.
Okay. And another question. You were using Microsoft Word as a tool, and I use the management tool Polarion. Can I use your tool?
Yes, you can, absolutely. One of our strengths are the connectivity. So you can absolutely use Polarion together with both the RQA and RAT. So regardless of basically the tool you're you're storing your requirements in, you can use these capabilities. Absolutely.
Okay, that's all. No more questions.
Okay, thank you. Good question, guys. I also want to promote the next webinar, which is actually a little bit in line with the question on Polarion, because next webinar will be on a new web-based authoring tool, the RAT tool, for all web applications, including then Polarion, Teamcenter, Jama, Jira, Codebeamer, and so on and so forth. So that webinar will be on October 17 and 19 in a couple of weeks. So please go in and register immediately now so you don't miss these webinars. Okay, and except from our web page, you can also see a lot of videos from previous webinars and also other types of presentations on our YouTube channel. So please go in there and visit as well. Okay, and here are my contact details if you want to contact me. And that's all for me. So thank you very much for listening in to this short webinar, and I hope to see you again soon. And please reach out if you want to have more information on our tools. Thank you and goodbye.